Welcome to the Veil Between Lives, a sanctuary where lived experience meets the great mystery. Here we hold soulful conversations with those who have touched the unseen and what lies beyond the physical world. We're honored you're here stepping into this space with us. I'm Susan, and I'm joined by my co-host, Em, and our very special guest today. A warm welcome to Leena Zafary. Leena is the founder of IANS Las Vegas and a speaker who explores consciousness and spiritually transformative experiences. After her own near-death experience in 2014, she has dedicated her life to helping others understand and integrate profound life-changing events. Today, she creates spaces where experiencers can share their stories, find support, and explore the deeper meaning behind what they have lived through. Welcome to the show, Leena. It's so wonderful to have you here.
Welcome, Leena. Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a fun conversation.
Yes, it will. I can't wait to see what unfolds here.
Yep.
I wonder if you would share maybe the backstory. What was life like before your ND? Talk about early life.
Ooh, like right before my near-death experience?
Anything that you feel relevant in life leading up to it. Maybe there was even some interesting things that you got tapped on the shoulder, as a young person, like maybe some abilities that you had or some interesting experiences that maybe kind of laid out the landscape ahead of time for your experience.
So I've always been kind of the sensitive one growing up. And there's a backstory to that too. I had somewhat of a near-death experience at birth, one that I don't have any memory of, but the story of it, and more so the after effects of a near-death experience in children, were much of my experiences growing up. And I did not find that out until, gosh, years after my second near-death experience, which happened in 2014. So leading up to 2014, I lived a fairly normal life. I was, a mom of two young children. I was married, family. I was happy. I was what you would call normal. No, I mean, I was healthy, um, and life was good. But hindsight, looking back now, I was living life kind of like with the not a fake mask of happiness because I was happy, but internal, I think there was a lot that I suppressed and that I ignored and that I, I I pushed down and I didn't deal with. And I think somehow everything just percolated in 2014. And what happened was just normal life. I got a common cold, and that common cold kind of was. It felt uncommon because I couldn't breathe very well. So I went to the hospital, and that kind of turned into a 9-day hospital stay where my health took a detour and went sh- plummeted down, and I had lung failure. I had contracted the H1N1 virus, so both of my lungs pretty much gave up in the days I was in the hospital. But luckily, I was in good place because I was in the ICU and I was being taken care of, but still declining until a moment where I just woke up. I woke up and just like I'm sitting with you ladies, I woke up and I woke up in spirit and I had a near death experience at that time. I did not know it at the time. I did not have language for it at the time. So I've talked about it in other podcasts where I've shared just the raw story of what happened. Boom, 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 boom. But essentially what happened is both of my lungs gave up and the hospital and the doctors did everything they could, but they pretty much washed their hands and said, there's really nothing you can do with when both lungs are completely gone. There's really not much you can do. So I guess prayers work because I had enough people praying for me here. I was a young mother, so and I know that hits everybody's heartstrings differently. So there I was on the other side, awake, um, and I had this complete conscious awareness of being present, like I am here. Except it was very strange because I looked to my right and I found my physical body laying in the hospital bed. Automatically, I looked around and realized, okay, I'm still in the hospital bed and the body's there. So I proceeded to look at myself because I was like, okay, well, what's here? So I looked down, and in that looking, I saw myself, but it was completely clear, like clear as glass. Those little crystalline figures people keep. It was just clear, but there was no thought behind it. It was just like, oh, okay. And then carried on. Um, so the whole story of me being in the hospital for 9 days was traumatic because it was sudden, it was unexpected, and I had two young children waiting at home for me. I was a mom of a almost 5-year old and an 18-month-old. So it was really, touchy, touchy. A miracle happened, and I came back completely healed, both lungs healed. And here we are, what, almost 12 years later, fast forward, a lot has happened, but that's the story of my near death experience. It was a miraculous healing, and it's taken me many, many years to literally understand it, comprehend it, integrate it, and, and now be able to talk about it in a way that's helps others maybe find peace, solace, or I don't know, just something, the gift that was given to me still gets, passed down. So I do it for those reasons, but here we are.
Yes, yes. Wow.
Yeah. We are miracles, aren't we?
Yeah.
In the real sense. So, how did this experience how did it change the trajectory of your life after? I mean, you said it sounds like you didn't really realize that's the experience that you had had or that you didn't have language for it quite yet after having it. But what was the journey in finding that language and sharing that experience?
Um, so first of all, prior to my near death experience, I lived, excuse me, I was not a spiritual person. So I had absolutely zero language in this spirituality world, meaning I did not know what Reiki was. I didn't know what chakras were. I did not know what meditation was. None of it. Higher self. Like I was living in a clueless bubble. But I was also not religious because I grew up in religious. So I kind of like, I wasn't religious either. So I was just living in this Leena bubble. So when the near death happened, I came back. I had zero reference. I had nowhere to place it. But when you have an experience like that, you can't help but be in that space. You can't help but share it. You can't help, like I try to, like, but it doesn't. It's relentless. It's like it wants to be understood. It wants to be integrated first by my own self, because the after effects are absolutely incredible. And when you don't know what happened to you and you don't know that that thing that happened to you has after effects or side effects, you can go absolutely crazy. And I did. My life completely fell apart because I didn't know what was happening to me. Like my sensitivities were crazy. And when I say sensitivities, I'm not talking about like the kind of sensitivities where somebody said something and I'm like, my feelings get hurt. And I'm like, oh, like you're mean to me. I'm not talking about that sensitivity. I'm not talking about, you know, people's opinions or rejection so much, not that sensitivity, but the sensitivity of perception. Whoa. That, and I didn't know that that was something. And I didn't know that, like, we all know there's five senses. Like I knew that, there's sight, hearing, sensing, and all that, five senses. But there was never any thought about it. But what happens after a near-death experience is all of those senses just open up. It's like living in a house with dirty mirrors, and then all of a sudden somebody comes and cleans all the mirrors, and then every time you walk by, you see clearly. So I had this my sensitivities where I felt people's emotions so deeply that I would physically feel them. Like if somebody had an ache, I would have the ache. If somebody had sadness, I'd be sad. If somebody was happy, I'd be overjoyed. And I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. And it wasn't very pleasant or easy on my loved ones either. Um, it's difficult when you are struggling to understand why you behave the way you behave, why you do what you do, why you say what you do, because it doesn't make sense. So it took many years to differentiate between who I was, how I was feeling, what I was thinking, and then how all that changed every time somebody came into my space. So after a while, it was like, okay, there's a pattern here. But also, when you come back with this thirst for knowledge, with this hunger, with this desire to know, to want. I mean, and it's not like you just want to know everything for the sake of knowing. It's just everything is like you want to stop and smell every flower because you want to know what it smells like. You want to know what everything means because everything has a meaning. Everything has a purpose. So living through that is crazy.
But yeah. When did you I can absolutely understand, like, how it must have been difficult to put the whole experience into context and not even really having words or realizing what happened. What are the things that happened along the way as you were starting to process where you realized, "Oh my gosh, I actually died and came back to life and was healed?" Like, when did it hit you that that's the explanation of what happened? And was there anything that led you to that moment?
Well, I just have to say, and we are all so divinely guided that when we listen, the answers to what we need and what we're searching for come to us. And even if you don't understand that, and when you take time to, you know, in your own space, it comes out. So for me, um, I got these incredible gifts, but it didn't feel like gifts at first because I couldn't, it's like asking a child, giving a sharp chef's knife to a child or an inexperienced person and say, go ahead and, chop up vegetables and all these different shapes and styles, julienne and all these things. And they're like, what? Easily, you know, you can get hurt with that. So it was almost like that. It's like my senses were these gifts, but I had to learn how to use them. And in that process, I did have help from source. I would get books, I would get people, I would get teachers, I would get things that when I was ready for the next phase, it would just come. As soon as I would read a book, another book would just be waiting for me. As soon as I found one understanding, like I started reading a lot. I like Alan Watts, Dr. McDonald Bain. I mean, all the Jesus literature and videos I could get my hands on. I went through the Course in Miracles. I I just couldn't I couldn't absorb stuff fast enough. And in that process, things started coming up and I started to understand. But about 4 years later, in that web of content that was coming my way, I found IANS, which is an organization, and it stands for the International Association for Near Death Studies. And when I first discovered that what happened to me is called a near death experience, and then more so that I was not the only one it happened to, that this is a documented case and that this is something that has happened to millions of people. I mean, this is something that happens to people before me and it will happen to people after me. And it has. I've had several family members who have had near death experiences after mine, believe it or not. Yeah. So that's understanding. It just opened everything.
Because you were curious, right? Yeah, and you kept asking the questions and you were paying attention because some people just keep on going, right? I think we have to stop sometimes for the pause and listen. So it's pretty amazing that you knew to do that without having a context. What about your family, your close family members? What did they think about all this?
They, oh gosh. So the first 4 or 5 years, I didn't have language. I didn't have knowledge. And if I didn't have understanding, but I did have one thing. I had the complete memory and image and understanding of the experience. So I had something they didn't have. So uh it was rocky. It was rough. It was tough. It was very challenging because I was erupting into these outbursts because I couldn't handle everybody's emotions. Like, you have to understand, if there was 10 people in my room, I was feeling all their emotions. And let me say something, not all of us feel good all the time. And I don't. So
Yeah.
if they were angry, if they were sad, if they were grieving, if they were depressed, I couldn't understand whose was what, but I was feeling everybody. And it was just like, for me, it was just like, so it took time, but it took a lot of understanding. Um, my marriage didn't last. That's the statistics in the near death experience community. They say about 70% or maybe a little bit more typically get divorced. And I was a statistic in that area. So I got divorced and I had 3 young children. So I really had a lot on my plate. I mean, as you guys can imagine, going through a divorce and having, young children is already difficult, is already more than what we can handle as humans, right? But I was doing that on top of the load of something that I was still literally trying to understand and go through. So there was a lot of tough times.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I also went through a divorce not too long after my own ND experience. Um, yeah, it always interested me how many experiencers have that situation. It just didn't fit anymore. And I love this analogy that you presented about the windows, like the windows being foggy and then it's like you come along with this big squeegee and just wipe them clear and everything changes. Yeah, everything changes after an experience like that. It did for me,
Oh, it
and
changes everything.
yeah, and I have yet to find somebody that it didn't have the same impact on. Yeah,
But it is a gift. Hindsight now, I can say it's a gift.
absolutely.
It didn't feel like it at the beginning, I could tell you that much. And because I was so broken, because I was so confused, I had no option but to find answers. It's like I had to figure it out. And the thing is I guess the blessing was the fact that I had young children. And not only were they dependent on me, but they were looking at me, they were watching me. And, uh, and I knew that I was going through whatever I was going through. And I knew that I had to come through it and I had to figure it out. I couldn't give up because what's going to happen with them? Like we
Yeah.
affect them so much. And then the more I integrated, the more I centered myself and the more I realized the more I grew, the more the more life became so much more beautiful and complete different, and now it's like I see my children and I see the impact I had on them throughout the beginning, the whole process, not at the beginning, at the middle, and now and then the next phases, and they're all growing. So there's so much more to still do and figure out and be. So
Can you expand on the integration process? I know with these major life changing experiences, there's a big integration process. Um, how did you get led on that path, and what are some of the things that you did that you found helpful and supportive for you during your process?
so I struggled a lot with the whole first not being in the spiritual world, not having any discipline and not doing any of the work, shadow work, none of that stuff. And then dying and coming back and seeing all my shadows and going, holy
Mm,
moly,
yeah.
there's a lot. Um, it, I resisted meditation. I resisted a lot because it was so much. Um, but I did in my own way. I learned, I so, in order to understand what I was going through, I got so desperate at the beginning when I started to unravel and understand everything. And I guess the genius part in me was like, okay, Leena, you got to figure this. This is too much, right? I'm the type of person that I got to figure it out myself. So I knew I had two choices. I either had to go find somebody to help me and to explain to me what was happening, which at the time I couldn't find anybody who could understand me. I couldn't find anybody who can tell me, Leena, it's okay. This is what happened. This is what you do next. You're okay or you're not. Do this, do that. None of that. So I was like, okay, well, I have to figure out because has something to do with spirituality. I did have to learn these things. I knew enough. So I signed up to do the whole life coaching experience and not to become a
Mhm.
life coach, but I figured, you know what? Instead of having somebody else tell me, why don't I learn what these coaches are learning so I can understand what's happened to me from that perspective? So I went into my integration with the mindset of, okay, it's going to be a lot easier financially and for me to comprehend if I go and learn what these people that are supposed to help me do. And I saw what I saw in that process. I was like, well, they're walking everybody this way, but I'm already here. So I had to look at my life from here and say, okay, this is what they're doing. I don't know if that makes sense, but I had the ability to see things from that perspective. So I found my way in that sense. And along that journey, I absorbed everything. I learned Reiki. I became a Reiki practitioner. I found language through bioacoustic biology, something so precise that helped me understand what I was hearing because my hearing was so sensitive and so acute. So bioacoustic biology fell in my lap. I found this lady who was teaching it and talking about it. And at the time I was like, what is this? I didn't look for this. I don't know what this is. But all I could do was listen to her voice because it just drew me. And I just sat and I listened to her because for me, I'm very much of a sound frequency voice. So I listened. And in that process over the years, I learned. And then I eventually took her courses and became a practitioner in the field of bioacoustic biology, which gave me tools, language to be able to understand what I was hearing, seeing, feeling, thinking, doing, all that stuff. And as a result, here I am with the ability to articulate what I'm feeling and seeing. And also, I have tools now to help people find their center and their own understanding. Because I resisted becoming a healer for a long time because I had to redefine what a healer was for me.
So can you explain, maybe dig down into what is bioacoustic biology? I find it very fascinating. So I'd love for you to expand and share on that.
Me too. It's a fascinating field. Bioacoustic biology is the study of the structure and architecture of the human voice. So, in bioacoustics, we say you can lie with your words, right? But the sound of your voice carries your intention. So in bioacoustic biology, and as part of the gifts, that we receive when we come back with these sensitivities, is we get a little bit of that. We sense things. We're very intuitive. But now that intuitiveness can be measured. And basically how that works is when we speak, our voice does not just carry the words that we're saying, because underneath the words, there's also intention, there's meanings. So how we feel, how we think, how our bodies are in this moment affects the sound quality of our voice. So I could say the exact same sentence when I'm happy, and I could say the same exact sentence when I'm upset, and you could tell the difference. We all could. So bioacoustic biology just hones in and goes into the micro of it, down to the cellular. Sound frequency and vibration is nothing new. This is ancient history. This is no new discoveries. We've been told by everybody that everything is sound frequency and vibration. And so are we. I mean, our voice is sound, and it carries the frequencies of our thoughts, emotions, and our physical being.
Can you expand on the technology that's used to differentiate the different the different mood or the difference in a happy sentence and I'm not feeling so great? Like how is this measured?
Um, from the technology standpoint, or from the kind of like, how does the voice separate itself in those ways to be measurable?
I'd love to know both.
Okay.
Find it fascinating, really.
Okay. Um, so the technology is developed over the course of the past 40 years by Sherry Edwards through the Institute of Bioacoustic Technology. Now, what she has done is she has, over these past 40 years, have studied the voice prints of thousands and thousands of people. And what she's created is formulations and templates of how the human voice sounds when you have different issues and ailments. So people with similar issues and similar anomalies, they'll have similar voice patterns. So over time, we have enough data to show, for example, the sound of your liver. Healthy liver has its own unique vibrational sounds, its own vibrational rhythm, its own vibrational harmony. Now, when something happens and when there's an issue, like for example, like fatty liver or anything, right? There's a progression, and then that progression, the structures of the cell slowly changes, and as the structures change, so does the tone and the frequency and vibration of it. Right? So, in the sound of the human voice, you can pick up the differences in the sound quality that the voice emits from that organ, and you can see what is off, what is not enough. And the thing is, the human body is not just what you're lacking. People look at the human body as, oh, you have diabetes, you can't eat this, and or you have too much of this, or but there's a lot of different pathways that take you to that. There's a lot of things that affect it way before it gets to that. And all of that is contained within your voice. And when you look at somebody's voice patterns, you could see the structure of what is happening with you right now, and also what will happen to you in the future should you not change or take care of what's vibrationally, harmonically off. So it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So what would a session look like? How do you measure these things? And would you mind guiding us through what a session would look like? Because I also have a scientific mind about me, so I'm very curious
Yeah.
about these things.
And you know what, that's what fascinated me about this is because I didn't come from the spiritual world. I didn't have the belief system, what people called woo-woo. I wasn't I I wasn't sold on Reiki. Like for me, somebody said, "Oh, I'm gonna put my hands on you and, heal you or make you feel better." I was like, okay, thank you. But no. um So, yes, I have a scientific mind too in that sense. I'm like, show me, prove it to me. And not only that, I'm surrounded by family and friends who are like, okay, you can't, you're not woo woo enough to make woo woo make it sense, right? And I'm not scientific enough at the time to articulate the things that I was picking up. So, bioacoustics gave all that to me. So, the voice is recorded like by any instrument. Like I take a recording of the voice. So I probably need maybe a 35, 45 second voice sample. And what I take that voice sample and then I put it into my own system software, and then I look at the architecture of the voice, which actually it looks at it from 1 to 1,000 spikes. I don't know how to really explain it to you, but in a sense, it shows it to me in a graph. And in that graph, I look to see the patterns where your voice is too much, where your voice is too low. What are you compensating? Where are you struggling? And I'm trained to look at all that and find, pathogen profiles or look at inflammations in the body, and then I hone in and look deeper, and then I kind of do a macro look, and then I I find the root cause of things. And you could do that. So it requires a I guess an intuitive understanding, and also an actual understanding of the physical human body, as well as emotional intelligence, and I'm gonna include having an understanding of the psychology of the human brain. Really, really makes a difference because when you look at a voice pattern, you see all those layers and you could see where people are stuck. Not everybody's sick from the same place. Like we all have issues. Like I have issues. Everybody has issues because we're human. Every day things affect us. What I eat sometimes doesn't work sit well with me and I get sick, or, I fall down and I get hurt and I have to recover, which I had. So we're constantly moving around. So there's no such thing as a perfect healing, perfect cure for anything. It's about understanding where your body's misaligned and then finding alignment in that space. And I do that through sound and frequency and all that. I hope that answered what that.
I'm curious. So this could be from what I'm understanding. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So when you're checking these different frequencies and things, and you may see something going on, or understand that something's going on in the physical body, are there many different ways that can be addressed through diet, through exercise, through talk therapy, through other alternative healing methods? Is you bring in what all of these different methods, to address the issues? I'm curious.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because we're all in different places, right? I can look at you and say, for example, nutritionally, what's missing in your body, right? And if you're low on an enzyme, right? That enzyme is going to affect so many different pathways in the body that can cause all kinds of so-called diseases. But a lot of these can be fixed by knowing what's off balance in your body. And I was just explaining this to somebody over the week. I had a client and I was explaining it to her. We are just like a cake, right? In order to make the perfect cake, you have to have all the ingredients required, the base ingredients: flour, uh, water, sugar, liquids, powder, salt, sugar, baking powder, whatever you need. I'm not a baker, but you need to have all those things, and you need to have precise measurements, because if you do too much or too little, your cake is not going to be tasty. It's going to be gross. And by the way, I can't bake to save my life, which is funny because it requires exact measurement. It's so funny. But the human body is very much like that. If we don't have enough enzymes, if we don't have enough vitamins, if we don't have enough minerals, if we don't have enough proteins, we're not going to be our best. Everybody is missing a different ingredient. Right? So basically what I do is I tell you, where are you low in? Did you put too much of this or is not enough of this? Because, we can both have similar symptoms. Yours could be because you have too much of this ingredient, and yours could be you don't have enough of this ingredient. Both of them at the end of the day gave you, same issues. So that's how I see brain.
It sounds really scientific, which I love, but I'm curious, does it touch on at all not just what the physical imbalances are, but what about energetic imbalances or emotional or mental imbalances?
Oh,
Things
everything.
that we can't quite quantify or put a finger on.
Yeah. Everything is, I want to say, detectable in the sound of our voice. Everything. Our emotions, our way of thinking, all of it shows up. And healing is not one way, one thing. Healing is multi-level. You got to heal like the same issue, same problem. You got to heal it energetically. You got to heal it mentally. You got to heal it emotionally. And then you got to give your body a chance to catch up with all those, because until all three layers agree on whatever it is that needs to be agreed upon for harmony, for coherence, and for healing, all these mean the same thing. For that to happen, all three needs to come. So sometimes it's just as simple as knowing that you need a particular enzyme. You take the enzyme, and then your life changes. Our hormones, women's hormones are such a big topic. Menopause, such a big topic. Thyroid, I mean, it affects so many layers of it, from our skin to our hair, everything, right? All that's detected in our voices. Uh, Hormones, we don't need more hormones. We don't need hormone therapy or therapy. No, we don't need more hormone replacement so much. We need to understand where the hormones are off balance and then balance those. Because a lot of times we think, oh, let's just take more estrogen on the face, estrogen here, estrogen there. We want to pack on estrogen. But the thing is that's not how the body works. We have estrogen receptors. And if your estrogen receptors are not activated, properly working, you can you can layer on layers and layers of it and take it, and your body will be overwhelmed with too much of it, and you'll still have issues. So, yeah.
So it sounds like somebody would send you a voice sample and then you analyze that, and then do you have like a consultation with somebody to let them know maybe what they're lacking or support they might need? Or
Yes.
yeah.
So basically, I believe you also asked me a session, but sometimes in the explanation, kind of get lost. So let me tell you what the session looks like.
I'm just
So
curious.
sessions are simple. I do my sessions on Zoom, And I start off the sessions and I take a voice sample right then and there. So it's how you're showing up to me right. I take you and I take an impression of where you are right now. And then I look to see what's gone off balance, where we need to look at. And of course, I do have to get some information as far as like what's going on with you, you know? Uh, where do we need to focus? Are you having challenges in getting your focus, your thoughts? Is it a mental thing? Are you overwhelmed with thoughts? Are you needing to calm your mind? Because then I could teach you to do that and then you'll see the difference. Or is it your emotions are out of control? Are you sitting in anxiety too long? Are you sitting in depression? Because both of those are, I call them, what are they called? The mud that pulls you in. What are this?
Quicksand?
Quicksand. Yes. Our emotions could kind of be like quicksand, when we fall into anxiety or depression, it's like quicksand. It pulls you, you know? So sometimes you need to learn how to come out of that and learn a process and a path to come out of that so that you can start to heal. And so there's different layers. And then, of course, nutrition, what you can take to help the physical body be able to connect the dots, the thoughts with the emotions. Because a lot of people think it's mindset and let's do mindset activities. But if your body does not have the proper nutrition, the proper ingredients to help facilitate a coherent thought process, your mindset is just going to be like, you're going to go crazy trying to do something that your mind is going to fight. Or emotions, same thing.
Well, we could do a whole episode on gut health and the gut being the first brain.
We
For
have
sure.
3 grays. Yeah. And the
Yeah.
thing is each one of them have their own language. Each one of them actually give information and receive information. And healing for me happens in all layers. So for me, when I do a healing session, it's not just for me to look at your voice and just look at the frequencies and then just perhaps maybe work up frequencies and sounds to give back to you, but sometimes it's just what to do nutritionally or emotionally or mentally to help the process going. But I do sessions where I go through the basics, but if you wanted to work with me, it would be over a little period of time because you do have to address all different layers in order to get a full effect, because I can fix an issue in the body. But if you're still creating the same mental patterns and doing the same emotional things, tomorrow that pain's going to show up in the other shoulder or somewhere else. So
I have a crazy question. I don't even know if you can answer this
I love
because
crazy questions.
I think
Ask away.
yeah, and I'm still trying to wrap around my mind around how this works, and I think I have a decent understanding of it. What is the strangest maybe it's from a particular organ in the body, or maybe it's you tripped across something you hadn't seen before, but what is, like, the strangest, most unusual, like, frequency, vibration that you've picked up within somebody's system? Something maybe that surprised you where you were like, "Wow."
That's hard to say because a lot of it is coded. I can look at genetic patterns. I look at genome. I can look to see um, which which genes are expressed, which genes are not expressed. We all carry genes for different things, blue eyes, cancer, this and that, right? So what makes us unique, what makes us different is which one of those genes are expressing at any given moment, right? So if a gene that's not supposed to be expressed, but it still lives in us, we don't want it expressed, right? Like, for example, a cancer gene. Um, People carry cancer genes from family, but you don't want it expressed. And then there's genes that need to be expressed, but sometimes are not expressed, like growth hormones, right? So sometimes those genes are not expressed. And the voice pattern shows all that. Not only that, but I believe very strongly in epigenetics. So epigenetics, in my understanding, is the conditions that essentially express or deactivate or activate genes. So I see all that in the voice difference. I could see if a gene is in the epigenetic phase of being expressed, and you could help that. But if you had pain in your pinky right over here, in your voice, it would tell me that you have pain here. And it would tell me if the pain is because your thumb is throbbing and it's inflamed, or if it's hurting because it's stiff and it's tight and it won't bend. I can tell that from the sound of your voice, even if you don't tell me.
Wow.
It's
Fascinating.
precise.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
All that in our voice. So that also brings around we should be responsible with our words, right?
Oh
In our
my
expression.
God. Absolutely. Not just with our words, but how we relate to those words. You can say a word, but how you think about the word and how you feel about the word makes the difference of how that word comes out.
Does this cross over at all into, now we're digging a little deeper here, but I know that our voice has a sound and a frequency. What about our internal thoughts and our internal talk? Just curious how I know that we are affected by our internal talk, right? Some of us have a lot of negative self-talk, and that does affect us, and it does affect our health. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah.
It
So I guess
does.
my question is, I'm answering my own question, and even the vibration or the way that we think of the words or the phrase that we're speaking to ourselves has an effect on us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, when you have a thought, the first person who hears it is you.
Yeah.
Your own cells are the first that hears it. And your cells are alive. Every one of them, every one of them. And there's so much science and there's so much research on so many different layers of everything we talk about. Like how much how much discoveries have we found in water, in how water holds emotions? You can If people understand how incredibly powerful we are as humans in our voices, in our thoughts, in our intentions, in our prayers, we would be able to heal our own bodies. Trust me. And that's a bold statement, but I'm going to say it because there's different ways, when we understand. And we have to learn to heal every single layer. There's no bypassing. You've got to do it. But once you understand how simple it is, they all get done. For example, you can take a glass of water and sit in front of it and give it intention and speak words of affirmation to it, even if it's in your mind. Just saying, you know what? Thank you. I'm so blessed that I have a clean, clear glass of water to drink. Just that alone and that gratitude that the water has, what happens is every drop of that water goes into your body and literally thanks every cell in your body
Yes.
because we are made up of, what is it, like 79% water, liquid? And those liquids is the same as water. It holds memory. It holds intention. So we can speak to our bodies in the same way as we speak to a glass of water, and it hears us.
Yes. On and on about this. I do have another one of my curious questions, and I don't know if there's any data about this, but I want to just go back for a moment to the whole idea that you were saying you didn't have any idea of spiritual concepts or any woo woo or kind of any of that before you had your NDE. And I'm curious if there's been any study. I feel like from the experiences that I've heard about people that have had NDEs, and I'm fascinated by it, so I've watched a lot of stuff. It seems to me like a lot of the people that have these experiences did not have a spiritual, I guess, framework before they had these experiences. And I don't know if there's any data behind that and why that might be.
That is a great question, and I'm not sure I really know the answer. But yeah, not everybody not everybody who has experiences are really in that space. Yeah, it happens because the thing is we don't get to choose those experiences. We can't choose, you know, which is so ironic because that is the only thing we can't choose. Everything else we have to choose. This world is all about choice, right? Like we chose to come here. We chose this life. We really did. I was having a conversation with my son just the other day. He's like, Mom, I don't know if I believe in this. Well, you mean to tell me I chose to be here? I didn't choose to be here. I'm like, yeah, how do you did? You chose to be here. He said, how do you know that? Because I was given a choice to come back. So I'm assuming everybody has a choice to come back. But, the same questions come. We do. It really is a choice. We don't remember our choice, but I think one of our life purposes is to remember that we have choice in this life, and which goes back to the whole free will thing, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. So my experience is that I did choose. So I did have, I wouldn't say religious training at all. So as a young child, I chose to follow my friends to church. None of my family went to church at all, but I had my best friends around the corner, and I went to church with them every day. It was an instinct almost um to go. Um but it's interesting. So through your NDE experience, you founded the IANS group of Las Vegas. You speak about it. You go out and share your experience and provide safe places for people who've had them to talk about them. And my own, it was the exact opposite. Right. So, I mean, I mentioned it to a few people at first, but it wasn't well received. And it was, don't
What?
talk about that. People will think you're crazy and send you into, a facility to take care of that.
Yeah.
And I didn't even start speaking till probably a couple of years ago. Few years ago when I reached out to somebody and said, "Hey, I was thinking about writing this book and whatnot." It was some very trusted somebody I had actually taken a life coaching program through. And he said, "Well, have you ever looked at anybody else's experiences? Have you ever looked at IANs? Have you ever, listened to other people's experiences?" I said, "Oh, absolutely not." First of all, I didn't even realize they were out there talking about this stuff. But right. Um, but also I was a little fearful of opening up and sharing or listening to somebody else's experience, that it might take something away from my own. It was so sacred and so personal and so deep, and I didn't have words for it. And he said, "You need to do that. That's something." And I trusted him, and I I did. He said, "Go on the internet and look up near death experiences." So I did. And I couldn't stop watching. I was absolutely enthralled. I stayed up for hours and hours and hours just watching other people talk about the experience that I had had. Some were similar, some were nothing like it, but we all had something in common. We had all been to this place, inc- this ineffable place where you just don't even have an experience here to compare it to. And so, yeah, so I'm so grateful to you for opening that up to so many people.
Thank you. You know, my experience was really extraordinary positive in the sense of near-death experiences. So there was no tragedy, no trauma, no drama, no spirit guides, no ancestors. Nobody showed up in my end. So mine was very, very different than most NDEs, so I couldn't make sense of it either. It still was different, but I understood my experience more vividly through not so much the shared stories of other experiencers, because I realized none of it was really, it was so different, right? But I found a lot of resonance with some other people, like Carl Jung, for example. I resonate with him. He's a near-death experiencer, but he really integrated it, and he understood the psychology of the human experience on so many different levels and layers that it, for me, it's like I love to understand the complexity of that. Alan Watts, Edward Wilde, like these became my go-to guides. I learned not only through them telling their experiences, but then what they've done after and how they've integrated it, and the teachings that they left behind for integration is the path I took. That's how I integrated my experiences. I read, I understood. I didn't meditate in the normal meditation way, because I know I started off this earlier saying I don't meditate. I resist meditation. But you know what? Meditation is different for everybody in a sense, you know? But I do meditate. I do different types of meditations now. But at the beginning I didn't. But yeah, music is a huge source of meditation for me.
How does IANS support people that have had these experiences?
So
Kind of like tools and support can people find, with that organization?
yeah, IANS has been around for over 40 years. So they have full structure. I mean, we have an organization that puts on a annual conference. It's in different places every year, and we gather and we meet other experiencers, and it's pretty intoxicating because these conferences are hundreds of people, and most of them are experiencers. So when you go to these conferences, it's so magical and weird because you meet people that you've never met, but there's this resonance and there's this electricity and there's this energy that when you connect, it's like you connecting with some, like, a family member. You know them, you feel them. There's a vibration that they connect in. So it helps in that sense. For me, that was a big healing part, is just being felt, understood, resonated, um, not feeling alone. And then of course we have researchers, scientists, doctors, experiencers on all different layers talking about near death experience. So you're not having to listen to my personal experience, my personal interpretation, and my personal opinion about what I call a near death experience, because we can all tell a story. But there is actual science behind it, there's actually research behind it. There are books written, you know. So it's nice to be able to see that, because it's a valid human experience. I mean, I say, yeah, some people have cancer, some people have diabetes, some people have this, some people have that. And all those deserve their classification. They deserve the space. They deserve the resources and researches that help them. But near-death experiencers are also a class of their own. We do need help. We need support. When it first happens to us, especially if we have no clue, we need space. We need to be able to talk about the experience with people who can understand it and hold space, not judge, not criticize, not correct, not analyze, not minimize, because people are really quick to minimize. You're like, oh, that was just the drugs you were on. Oh, that's you're hallucinating. But no, no, this is as real as this conversation that just took place between us three today. And it requires support.
What an enlightening conversation this has been.
Absolutely.
So, Leena, how can our listeners find you?
So I have a hub where you can go and read about what I do and the services that I offer and connect with me there, it's I can post a link. It's withme.so/Leena Zafary, or simply just Google my name, Leena Zafary, Leena, and then my full name, and you'll see some links, and you can get a hold of me. Email me or message me. Follow me on LinkedIn or Facebook. I'm not a big social media person yet, but
Okay.
that's a whole nother journey on its own.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll include your links in the notes as well. So I want to thank you for stepping into this space with us. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you for sharing with us. And yeah. And for our listeners, if you feel nourished or inspired by the Veil Between Lives, please subscribe, like, share, comment, or leave a review. It helps these conversations reach the souls meant to find them. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Leena.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for creating the space for me to share my experience and my story.
And thank you for the work that you do supporting others. So
Yes, thank you.